Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit ActiveDay.com to apply.
California, here we come.
A peaceful family.
You stupid idiot!
Let it go.
Count one and you ever get angry.
A cross-country journey. And a detour straight to hell.
Didn't see a motorcycle gang, did you? Bunch of real psychopaths.
From John Milius, director of The Wind and the Lion and Red Dawn. They stalked his family.
I'm such a bad girl, aren't I?
Terrorized his wife. Kidnapped his daughter.
I'm gonna take care of you real good.
Now, someone is going to pay. Gerald McRaney, Elan Oberon, Carla Gugino, and Jake Busey.
It's just you and me, Dad.
Motorcycle Gang.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna kiss me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
This is the American International Podcast, where we are covering Showtime's Rebel Highway series. I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And on this episode, we're looking at Motorcycle Gang.
Motorcycle Gang aired on August 5th, 1994. It was the third episode in the Rebel Highway series on Showtime. It was written by Laurie McQuillan and Kent Anderson, directed by John Milius, and produced by Lou Arkoff, Deborah Hill, and Willie Kuttner for Drive-In Classics.
And Motorcycle Gang stars Gerald McRaney as Cal Morris, Jake Busey as Jake, John Cassini as Crab, Richard Edson as Volker, Carla Gugino as Leann Morris, Elan Oberon as Gene Morris.
It also stars Marshall R. Teague as Kincaid, Texas Ranger, Robert Miranda as the lawyer, Gina Mastrogiacomo as the waitress, Don McManus as Cisco, Julia McNeal as Vivian, Pete Antico as Road Pig, and Peter Sherayko as Hanson. And in summary, Motorcycle Gang is set in the 1950s, where Cal Morris and his family are traveling from Texas to California for Cal's new job, and on the way they meet a motorcycle gang who terrorize the family and kidnap Cal's daughter Leann. They take her to Mexico, and Cal and his wife pursue them to get her back. So what do you recollect from Motorcycle Gang 1994, which we just watched?
Well, the opening we see Carla Gugino dressed in black on skates.
Carrying a tray of food.
She's a car hop at a drive-in. And her voiceover is going to tell us the story of what transpired to make her wear black and become a car hop, I guess.
She's tougher than she looks, and people wouldn't know that unless they knew her backstory, which we are about to find out. Cal Morris is Gerald McRaney, who, I don't know if you ever watched Major Dad back in the, 80s.
I think it was the early 90s.
Maybe the early 90s, yeah. So he's the star of that series. And here he's also a former military man. I guess there he was a current military man. Anyway, so he used to be in, I don't know what branch of the military. I think he would have been a World War II soldier at this point, given his age and the fact that it's the late 50s.
Well, they said it was the 442nd or 422nd.
Yeah, but I don't remember what branch that meant. So that's the division. But he and his family are making their final pack in to move. All their stuff's in a moving van, so it's just the family, and they're going to drive there.
Yep, he's got a powder blue Ford.
It's really sweet looking.
That someone has scribbled the words California or bust on the back of, and he's not exactly thrilled about that.
He thinks it makes him look like an Okie in a John Steinbeck novel or movie.
So as he's packing, his daughter Leann is saying goodbye to a friend of hers, Bunny, and they're sitting in the grass and looking at a National Geographic.
Pre-pornography being available everywhere, you would scandalize yourself by looking at pictures of Native Africans in various states of undress. Sounds pretty tacky and just not PC now, but that's what we did back then. It's a shame to say. And here we get a little AIP shout out, probably the only one in this whole movie, I think. A little Easter egg. Bunny's wearing a giant pin with Fabian's face on it, and for luck, she gives it to Leann. Leann pins it on her shirt. And then it's time to go, but Leann's mom's not there.
So Cal sends Leann out to get her mother, and her mother's busy. She's saying goodbye to a friend of her own,
Jerry. And they're all alone, saying goodbye in the most intimate way possible. Well,
not the most intimate way.
Not the most intimate way possible. Well, in this movie, where you don't get too much nudity, I don't think we get any nudity. It's romantic, let's call it. They're kissing. This is goodbye forever, I guess, for them. Their little affair is about to be over. He gives her a going away present. It's a cigarette lighter.
Yeah, with their initials on it, J and J.
Gene and Jerry. Yeah, there's a J on either side, and it's kind of bejeweled, I guess.
Looks kind of tacky, but she thinks it's beautiful. Gene hears Leann coming, so she has to break off her fond farewell with Jerry to save face. She checks her makeup, everything's good, so she goes out to meet her daughter. They all pile into the car, and they head out.
Gene asks if Cal wants to say goodbye to Jerry, and he does not. So they leave.
Goodbye, Houston, Texas. Hello, Los Angeles, California.
So they're barely out of town before there's a sort of foreshadowing incident. I don't know what kind of car, but it's a yellow car. It's got red flames painted on it. Backs out in front of Cal, and he almost hits it, but he doesn't freak out. And Gene wonders why he's not freaking out. But Cal's showing how calm he is in dangerous situations. And that's the point of that scene.
Then they have a conversation about how long this trip's going to be. Apparently, this wasn't discussed beforehand. It's going to be a 3-day trip, as long as they don't do any sightseeing. But the very next scene has them stopping to take a picture of themselves in front of a mountain. So they're already off schedule.
I'm sure that was just a brief stop, and maybe they needed a restroom break.
But while they're out there, Leann notices a motorcycle driving by on a distant road. So they get back into the car again, and Cal wants to keep moving, but Gene and Leann are hungry, and they convince him to pull over.
And that is the big mistake that starts everything off.
It always is.
They never should stop. You just keep going. Pack sandwiches.
So they're inside, and Gina's drinking a bit, and she asks her husband to dance with her, but he's too sober for that.
And I guess he's got to stay sober because he's the only driver in this family. He leaves, probably use the bathroom or pay the bill or something, and Leann and her mom talk. And once her dad's away, we see that Leann is kind of flirting with the cowboy at the counter.
She's not flirting, but she's eyeing him, and he's looking her way, too.
Well, she's smiling. It's the kind of flirting that a 16-year-old girl would do. She's not really trying to get anything going here, but she's pretty. She's very pretty, and he's appreciating her, and she likes that. But her mom does not like that. She doesn't want her giving this guy ideas, leading him on. And she wonders where Leann got her wild streak from.
I think she was just taking fashion tips from him because he's all in black, and in the future, that's what she wears in her car hop days.
But, I mean, it's a universal thing that once you've been through trauma, the only color you're allowed to wear is black. So I think that's probably more the case.
There's trauma?
Oops, spoiler. We already gave the whole synopsis of the movie. Leann says, well, I learned it by watching you, Mom, but she doesn't really say it in so many words. She sees the lighter, and I think she knows what that means. And now we have the inciting incident.
Cal returns, and they all head back out to the car, and the motorcycle gang is out there.
Big Tooth, Jake Busey, and 3 other guys.
Jake Busey's character is conveniently named Jake.
Oh, thank God. So helpful.
He's leaning on the Ford, and he compliments Cal on it as the Morrises pile into the car.
He starts flirting with Leann, too, but unlike the cowboy at the counter, she's not very comfortable with his flirting. Not that I blame her. He's leering at her in not a complimentary way. But unfortunately, now he's spotted her, and there's really no help for her.
No, the Morrises drive off, and Jake returns to his buddies, and they all decide that Leann must be in love with him now.
And she's some sort of prize that they now have to win. But first, Jake and the gang go inside the restaurant, where I guess he's also got something going on with the waitress there. And they're sitting down talking to each other. She's kind of flirting with him, but then he leans in and grabs her and kisses her, and she doesn't really seem to appreciate that. I don't think that was welcome.
Then we go back to the Morrises' car. Leann is seated shotgun, and we don't really see Jean. She must be sleeping in the back.
She's out somewhere.
She's always tired. And Leann and her father have a conversation about the move and how she'll miss her friend.
But she wants a fresh start. She's hoping things will be bigger and better out there. And Cal wants to give that to her.
And then we catch up with the motorcycle gang again. They left the restaurant. They're out in the middle of nowhere.
They're in a field, surrounded by nothing.
When their lawyer comes for a meeting.
And he's really going to regret not having this meeting in his office.
He has bad news, and they don't take it well at all.
No, he wants them to do some sort of deal in Mexico he's going to give them $500 up front, and then I guess the balance of the $5,000 when they return. But they don't like that deal. They want the money now. They want to pay their expenses, and they don't trust him to give them the money when they get back.
And he doesn't trust them either because he pulls on a gun as he tries to back away, but he's outnumbered 4-1.
They slam his arm in the car door and the gun goes flying. Jake pulls out a knife and eventually the guy gets stabbed. Then he falls down and then they start shooting him.
With his own gun.
With his own gun. And it takes about 8 bullets before they finally get a kill shot. The guy's crying the whole time. It's kind of pathetic.
Cut to a little bit later and the body has been discovered. Cops are on the scene, and so is Kincaid, Texas Ranger.
And Cal had seen them. I don't know if you noticed, this was a quick scene. Cal sees the cop coming from the other direction, so he's still in the vicinity of where that happened. And now it's time for a stop at night. Driving all night wasn't an option.
Not when you're the only driver.
No. Sorry, maybe Jean doesn't even have a license.
So they stop at a motel, and Leann has her own room.
And Cal sees his wife in the bathroom. She's adjusting her teddy, and she comes to bed in that, and she gets flirty with him. But just when he's finally into it, she shuts him down and says she's tired and has to go to sleep. Cal dutifully turns the lights out. I guess he's probably used to this.
But there are others in the motel who are having better luck because they wake up Leann with their moaning.
And she goes to the wall and puts her ear against it, get a little excitement.
And then we cut away back out into the middle of nowhere, and we see that Jake is getting lucky too. He's got that waitress from the restaurant.
But she's not lucky because almost immediately he pumps her full of heroin and she expires.
Then when Jake's done, he reunites with the rest of his gang and they start reminiscing about that little girl they saw at that restaurant.
Ugh. Then they leave and they had a campfire burning and they don't extinguish it. Only they can prevent forest fires.
Well, they also leave a dead waitress in the car.
Well, their sins are mounting up.
So next morning, Cal Morris is checking out, and the hotel owner notices that Cal was in the 442nd, or whichever regiment that was.
And so is his son, who sadly didn't make it through the war.
He shows his picture, but Cal doesn't recognize him as somebody that he knew.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Did he have traumatic brain injury and he just doesn't remember? Does he not want to remember?
It doesn't matter because regardless, he doesn't have to pay.
Yeah. The hotel owner does him a solid and comps him the room.
So they hit the road again. Once again, Jean is sleeping, and Leann, this time in the backseat, gets her father to tell her about when he and her mother got married.
And it's totally lame story. He was on leave, they got married, they danced all night, and then he left the next day.
It was only a weekend pass. He didn't have a lot of time. The gang rides to a gas station advertising a roadside attraction. They've got a snake named Medusa. They go in, most of them play pool. Crab stays outside to play with the snake, and Jake goes in, but he doesn't play pool.
Now, he robs the place. I mean, you saw that coming, I'm sure. He opens up his switchblade, points at the register. The elderly clerk goes, "You want some candy?" Jake shakes his head. So the clerk gives him the money and surprisingly does not get murdered. The guys just leave. But before he leaves, Crab, the guy who was looking at the snake, decides to do a little more mayhem. He dumps the snake into the box of baby chicks that were meant to be fed to the snake one at a time. But instead, the snake is now going to feast.
Oh, that's where I saw the chickens.
These are very disgusting people. There's no nuance here. There's no shades. They're just bad.
And having done their damage, they take off. A little time passes, and the police are taking the gas station attendant's statement as the Morrises drive up.
The cops say they know who did this. So this gang is known to them, but they're just following on the heels of their crime spree. They're not getting ahead of them at all. Cal wants to find out more, but they don't want to talk to him. And unfortunately, when they leave, Jake and the gang are watching. So they've been spotted. Now they know their current location.
Yeah, they're watching through binoculars, so they're keeping a closer tab on them.
You always got to have the binoculars.
But now it's another night, which means another motel.
And this one has some interesting proprietors.
They're beatniks.
It's more of a beatnik attitude than beatnik in appearance, I guess. So we have Cisco, he's a photographer, and Vivian, who is a model. His photography is up on the wall. And they both start flirting with Jean. They ask if she was a model. She's like, well, I pose for art classes. But she's very, very flattered by this.
They get their key and go to their room. This time it looks like they're all sharing a room. And Jean is really excited to have seen real-life beatniks. Weren't they cute, she says?
Spotted in the wild, beatniks.
And Leann asks, what about those guys on the motorcycles? Weren't they cute?
No.
They're gangsters.
Jean explodes. She's not into these guys. With good reason. They look like the trouble that they are.
Yeah, might as well have been wearing ties.
Both she and Cal warn her to stay away from those hoods. Don't even think about them. Then it's time to get some dinner. They're going up to the Tasty Freeze, but Jean's going to stay behind. She's tired. From doing what? Who can say?
But she does order a cheeseburger.
And fries.
So Jean is alone in the room and resting when there's a knock on the door. It's Vivian, who says that Cisco would love to get some shots of Jean and her daughter.
And give her some shots, too.
But they're at the Tasty Freeze, so Jean can just go now and leave a note of where to find her.
And she does leave a note, which Cal finds when he returns. Went to the beatniks. Cool jazz. Wine. Come on over.
But this isn't Cal's scene, so he just sends Leann to go off alone.
And by now, Jake has arrived at this hotel, and he sees Leann going to the other room unchaperoned.
Leann peeks into the room before going in, and she sees her mother posing.
I think in a different movie, there would be something else going on here, but
she's showing some shoulder.
They play it kind of tame, I think.
Then Leann goes in to deliver her mother's burger, and Cal waits in his room, kind of bored. He hears the sounds of laughter coming from down the way where that little party is going on.
And Jake's still in the parking lot.
Jake goes over to the car, lifts the hood, and cuts the radiator hose. He ducks out of the way as Cal looks out the window. Cal has found that lighter.
Yeah, and he correctly interprets that the J and J mean that his wife was cheating on him with Jerry. He probably had suspicions before, and that sealed the deal.
So the next day, Cal is polishing the car. I think he's trying to wipe off those words from the back of his trunk.
You don't got to be telling people your business where you're going. And Vivian and Cisco bid a tender farewell to Jean and Leann, I guess. And they try to give Cal some vitamins to go.
So the Morrises leave. Leann says that those guys were really cool and they're not even married. What? Cal seems very startled to hear this bit of news.
Well, it's the 50s and he's a straight-laced Army veteran. Not surprising he would feel that way.
Meanwhile, Jean is looking through the photos Cisco took last night.
We don't get to see them really at all, but they seem a little racy.
We see them as they're thumbing through them, but there's nothing too startling. It's the 50s.
There's a lot of shoulder. After Jean passes the photos back to Leann so she can look at him, Cal hints to Jean that he knows about her affair.
And this is about as long as it takes for that car to overheat. So Cal's going to go off to find some water, leaving Jean and Leann to cook in their car under the hot desert sun.
Well, what choice do they have? They could all go, I guess. That probably would have been better. But Jean would be too tired.
But this gives Jean and Leann a chance to have a little talk.
Girl talk.
And they talk about Jerry, kind of.
Leann calls her mom out on betraying her father. And then Jean guilt trips Leann into admitting that they are still friends. She doesn't want any rift between them. She wants to pretend like everything's fine. And I think Leann gets tired of this, so she just goes off for a walk. She doesn't go far, but she just gets out of the car away from her mom.
Meanwhile, we see Cal made it back to that motel, and Cisco and Vivian have given him a container of water, and Cisco's going to give him a lift back to his car.
Oh, that's really nice. The gas station would never...
Except on the way, Cal has to listen to a beatnik diatribe.
I think Cal is really tuning him out, honestly. I didn't write down anything he said, because it doesn't matter. What matters is that back at the car, the gang has found Jean and Leann, and they swarm around the car.
Leann is sitting by the side of the road when there's a sound of approaching motorcycles. Jean calls out, then locks herself in the car.
Well, she tries to get Leann to run there, but there's no time. So all she can do is lock the door. At least if she were to survive this, she could tell Cal what happened to their daughter. I guess you could interpret that as being a little too self-interested, but I'm sure it's just her survival instincts kicking in.
So Crab and Volker and Road Pig are circling the car. Jake picks up Leann, who's still at the side of the road, and when she starts to struggle, he shows her his knife, and that gets her to calm down a little.
He forces her onto the back of his bike, and they drive off, leaving the other three still there, swarming Jean.
One of them has a crowbar and is able to smash the window and gain access to the car.
They pull Jean out. This is a really terrifying scene, honestly. All three of them are grabbing at her. She's trying to get away. It looks like rape is imminent. But that's when Cisco drives up in his red Triumph convertible, and one of the guys has a chain, and as he's driving by, he swings the chain at the windshield of the Triumph, and I think he hits Cal in the passenger seat.
I don't know, Cal's thrown from the car, but he's thrown out from the driver's side.
I think he was maybe trying to get out right away, and the door was open, and once the car got hit, it spun out a little bit.
That container of the water comes out first, and then Cal falls out.
Well, it's good he has the water, because he's going to need that later.
But that's everything that they need, so Cisco takes off.
Maybe he was going to call the cops?
It's not his fight.
I don't think he does call the cops because they don't know about this when we catch up with the cops later.
Nope. He still has to get his windshield fixed. So the other bikers ride off, and Cal goes to his wife and gets her to calm down. Says, yes, they took their daughter, but they're going to get her back.
Now it's nighttime, and Jake and Leann are still alone. He stops the motorcycle, and he decides to reassure her, saying that he saved her from those other gang members, which, as we know, is a flat-out lie.
She knows it too. They were with you, she says. And he goes, nah. Anyway, we got to get to Mexico before they catch up to us.
He's denying reality. Now we're at the police station. Before Cal arrives, we hear some cops talking about how the waitress was found, pumped full of heroin. Her heart almost exploded. And when Cal shows up, he tries to talk to the desk sergeant who's on the phone and just shushes Cal and tells him to wait his turn.
Oh, this is the most excitement they've had in this town because they've had 2 murders and things like this just don't happen here.
In the back room, we see there's Ranger Kincaid, or Kincaid, Texas Ranger, and a couple of other cops, and they're talking about the crime spree too, and where they think the motorcycle gang is headed now. And Cal sits down and overhears all this.
And what he hears is enough for him to forego the police and take matters into his own hands.
Well, what I think he hears is that they think the gang is going to Mexico, and that's not their jurisdiction. So they have to wait for him to come back, but Cal doesn't have to wait. So I think that's the thought process there.
Right, and Cal doesn't have the time to wait.
Even if she's still alive, she's been through hell.
His daughter's in the hands of a Busey.
Yeah. And that would alarm any parent.
So Cal leaves without getting their help, and Kincaid says that he's seen that man before, but he's not sure where.
He doesn't know if he's a crook or a cop or what. But never mind, they have to head out. And now we're back with Jake and Leann, and they're on their solo ride. We see lights in the distance, and he tells her that's Mexico. And he says he's going to take her there, and not to worry, there they can be free. And sometime later, they'll find her parents, I guess, to get permission to do whatever. And then he kisses her. Ugh. He asks if she's cold, and he gives her his probably smelly jacket. And then they ride off.
They reach the border, and they let right in.
Yeah, I guess this is not today. The Border Patrol guy just opens the gate and waves everybody in. No questions asked.
So they go to this small town where Jake asked to speak with Mr. Gortman.
They're at a restaurant called La Favorita.
There is tacos on the menu.
There's tacos on the menu. Yum.
And this is where we learn that Jake is fluent in Spanish.
He must have done many deals with these people before. Obviously, they're dealing in drugs. Jake has the package and he wants to leave with the heroin or something like that.
But he's got this white girl on the back of his bike, and that seems to be a bit of concern for all involved.
Yeah, Mr. Gortman doesn't like having this gringa here. He thinks that maybe he can't trust Jake now.
And he says that she reminds him of one of his own daughters.
But then he says he wants her.
Well, he wants to send her back home, I think.
No, he wants her for himself. Because then Jake says that she's private property.
No, Jake knew what they were saying. Jake was telling her that.
Oh, well, he told them.
Yeah, Jake was misinterpreting on purpose what they were saying because he knew that Leann had no idea. So he was trying to make it look like he was protecting her again.
Oh, right. But I'm saying what he was telling them, that they can't have her.
He wanted to send her back home. He was genuinely concerned for her.
I mean, they don't do anything to help her, so how concerned could they be?
Well, they kind of can't. So anyway, they're going to go to a shed and wait until Mr. Gortman is ready to do business. And the shed kind of gave me Fast and the Furious vibes. It reminded me of the shed where they spent the night in there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is a literal shed. It's not like some quaint little cabin they call the shed. It's just a shed, but there is a bed in there, unfortunately, for Leann. Now Jake's gang rides right through the literal open border, and now we're in the shed.
Jake lights a lantern and lays down on that bed. Leann sits nearby, and Jake takes back his jacket. Then he notices her fumbling with her Fabian.
Good one, Jeff. She didn't really want to sit there, but she has a choice. Then he tells her to lay down, and she has to lay down next to him. She doesn't fight him off when he starts kissing her, though. Well, not yet. Then we see that Jake's gang is at La Favorita. Do you know what's happening there?
They too ask for Mr. Gortman, but he's not around this time.
I don't even know if it's important, but we know they're all in it together.
And at this time, the Morrises are crossing the border. They're let right in, too.
Well, those were the days. You didn't even need a passport.
Then we're back in the shed. Jake is still kissing Leann, and he's getting a little handsy.
I would say he gets more than handsy. It looks like he's raping her.
Well, he gets to the point where he does. He pulls off her jeans.
And unzips his.
She's struggling. He smacks her, and that's when she grabs Fabian, and she sticks him in the neck with it.
We don't have a Chekhov's revolver here, but we do have a Fabian pin that saves the day. He gets off her, she gets her jeans back on, and runs for it.
But she runs right out of the shed into the rest of the gang.
Fortunately, her luck is not turned yet. Jake shrieks at them to catch her, and they do. This movie is really dark. I mean, it's not like I just noticed it. I just finally wrote it down.
Now, Cal and Gina have reached the town. They're at that restaurant looking for someone who can speak English. Sergeant Lopez is there, and he can speak English. He's also the liaison, I guess, for Mr. Gortman, who's watching from an upper balcony.
Cal talks to Gortman.
He talks through Sergeant Lopez.
Well, he asks if Lopez can speak English, and Lopez says yes. So they begin conversing in English, and he's asking about a gang. Has a gang come through here? And as they talk, Lopez speaks Spanish up to Mr. Gortman.
And they're having kind of a private conversation, not for Cal's ears.
Because he only speaks English. Well, he doesn't speak Spanish.
So they know he's there for the girl.
And they don't seem willing to help him, at least not now. But they do mention where they think the gang has taken her, in Spanish.
Then in English, Lopez tells Cal that wait till morning and we can help you then. Cal goes back to his car, and before getting in, thanks them in Spanish for their cooperation.
He says enough to let them know that he heard everything and understood it. So now we know Cal is going to the shed.
He gets back in the car and tells Jean that they're going to be on their own.
And that he's going to need her help, and that she needs to do what he says, when he says. No questions asked. And the next time we see him, he's sharpening his knife on his shovel. There's 2 weapons.
Then we're back in the shed, and the whole gang is there. Road Pig, one of the gang members, is shooting up. They're all drinking and drugging, and Leann is an unwilling bystander, and they're pouring beer down her throat.
And putting lipstick on her. And there's also a cantina waitress sitting there. She's sitting on Crab's lap. They kind of bicker about who, I guess, is going to have her next. I don't think anybody wants her, because Volker decides that he wants some of this fresh meat.
He wants some of that clean white thing. He says he's never had a virgin before.
And Jake says, oh, she's no virgin. She practically raped me. So every accusation is a confession, as they say. Maybe she is still a virgin. Maybe he didn't actually get to rape her.
Meanwhile, nobody wants to watch Crab get with the Mexican harlot, so they convince him to take her home, or
outside
go somewhere,
at least.
to go somewhere, yeah. So he goes out with the girl, only to be met by Cal.
And Cal gets him in a chokehold and breaks his neck. So he is down for the count, and the Mexican harlot takes off, as well she should. And Cal goes in the shed. Now it's time to get rid of the rest of them. And it looks like all he has is his shovel.
He takes care of Volker first, because he's the one who's going after his daughter at the moment.
Yeah, and they don't swarm him. They don't attack 3-on-1. They do it one at a time.
That's what they do in movies.
It's a fair fight. Except it isn't, because that shovel is freaking sharp. It looks like he shoveled off his kneecap. He gave him a good stab with that. He's not dead, but he's down.
Then Road Pig starts swinging a chain, and he disarms Cal of that shovel. But with his training, Cal is better at hand-to-hand combat.
There's some ladder leaning there, and he uses the ladder to catch the chain and disarms Road Pig.
Now it's just Cal and Jake. So they fight a little one-on-one, and Cal takes Jake down easily.
Breaks his arm.
But Road Pig sneaks back in.
Yeah, he grabs a knife that was sticking into the wall.
Yeah, meanwhile, Leann picks up that shovel, and she gets Road Pig when Jake comes in for a second shot.
She clobbers Road Pig, and then Cal leans down and chokes him out. Jake decides that he's going to run for it. He scrambles out of the shed, but Jean is there, and I think she stabs him, so maybe she had the knife. Jake is wounded. He tries to get to his motorcycle, but he can't mount it, and he falls onto the ground.
Then we cut to all the bodies being gathered in the shed. Cal pours gasoline over them, and Jean provides her affair later.
This is a symbolic moment. She's seen that her husband is the guy for her, finally. And by using this lighter to set her daughter's attackers aflame, it signifies a new chapter in their marriage. This movie is so profound.
So they go back to their car. This time they don't get through the border quite so easily. The Mexican police are there, and the American police and Kincaid, Texas Ranger are there. And they have a few questions.
They want to know what was their business in Mexico, how long they were there. Cal says they were just visiting tourists. They were only there one night. And no, we definitely didn't see or kill any motorcycle gang.
Kincaid tells him that he doesn't know how lucky he is.
Cal says he's very lucky. And he looks at his wife and daughter. And the cops ask him, but they're not really asking, do you plan on staying here long? And of course the answer is no.
He has a job to start in California.
And as they drive off, Cal and Jean and Leann agree that they're going to keep this dark secret to themselves. They will never tell anybody what happened.
But it's eating Leann up inside, and she wears black now because we're back at that drive-in where she's still car hopping.
Well, I don't think it is eating her up inside. I think she's overcome this. She's found a new strength in this. She's telling us that this was her story, and this is why you might think she looks like a marshmallow, but she's secretly tough inside. And she doesn't have nightmares because she doesn't dream, and that everything real leaves a scar. We all have them. And then the song Evil by the Wild Colonials plays us into the credits. And that's the end.
So, Cheryl, this 90s interpretation of Motorcycle Gang is a lot darker than the 50s version.
Yeah, we did just watch that a little while ago. And that was basically about two rival gang members having to race it out to prove one is better than the other. It's so tame compared to this. Well, I read that director John Milius never watched the original Motorcycle Gang. He just took his own interpretation of the title and went a totally different direction with it.
Well, that's what the assignment of Rebel Highway actually was.
Oh, yeah, it was. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying he should not have done that. I read an interview that he gave to the LA Times, and he said that he imagined the AIP movies where people were traveling and they always came across something, whether it's a zombie apocalypse or giant ants or some kind of human villain. And so that's where he got the genesis of the idea that this family, they're your normal, typical, upright Americans, are traveling across country, and out in the desert, they come across the worst people in the world. And that was the whole germ of the movie. It's a road movie, but it's a scary road movie.
And that works because when you're traveling, you don't have a home base. You don't have a place to go for protection.
And especially when you're out in the desert. We live in the desert, and there's long stretches of nothing. There's nobody to help you if something were to go wrong. And this is the 1950s where they didn't have...
Cell phone.
No, not cell phones. They didn't have a gas station like every 20 miles. I traveled across the country several times, and I never was that far from a place where I could stop to get gas. Maybe there's a hotel. I mean, looking all around me, I could see nothing, but I knew something was coming up. But here, they're really far away from everything.
Well, today we have the advantage of GPS, and you can look, okay, I have 50 miles of gas in my tank, and I have 47 miles to the next gas station. I'm just going to make it.
Right.
But you don't know in those days whether you're going to make it or not, because you don't even know where it is.
And when they encounter the trouble they had with the car, you know, when the radiator blows, I mean, that's a terrible thing. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. It's hot. They're in the desert. There's nobody around. There's no guarantee somebody will be around. I don't know how far they were out of town, but Cal had to walk that entire way and leave his womenfolk alone, where anything could have happened to them. It brings back how very vulnerable we are. Even now, we're still vulnerable out there on the road. But back then, it was even worse. You were more remote from everything. So that really adds to the tension and the suspense in this movie.
Yeah, I read the synopsis and I thought, that sounds pretty good. Sounds better than the original.
Yeah, I definitely think that as movies go, this is a more cohesive and compelling film than the original was. So I definitely feel like this is an upgrade. Even though I liked Motorcycle Gang from 1957, I enjoyed it. But that's just because it was kind of spunky, dumb fun. And this is not dumb. It's not fun. It's genuinely frightening.
I think it was hampered by the budget somewhat, though, because it feels like a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. It doesn't have that theatrical... But I think with more money, he definitely could have made it so. He could have got some better actors, and I think the production values would have been higher, and we would have seen that on screen. They had $1.3 million for every movie in this series.
I'm not sure who did the score for this, but even the music, it sounded very made for TV.
Honestly, until the final credits played was the first time I even noticed there was a song playing. And there were plenty of songs in this movie, but it didn't really reach my consciousness until the credits were playing.
I did notice the score when they were coming into town and this dark, foreboding music, but it sounded a little canned. You think there's a moral to this story?
Don't stop for lunch.
That's advice. I'd say the moral is accept any mementos you're offered as a going-away gift.
Well, that's also advice, isn't it? No, you should always be armed with something, whether it's a shovel or a Fabian pin. Don't go out there alone, people.
Fabian pin and lighter were both gifts, so they both came in handy.
We don't know where the shovel came from. That was just there.
They just had that in their trunk because it's probably hard to get shovels in California.
Well, if you're driving through the desert and you get stuck in the sand, maybe you have to dig yourself out. I don't know. Maybe I should have a shovel in my car. Next time I go to California, I'll regret not having it. Foreshadowing that. What do you think of the cast in this movie?
It was easy to buy. Major Dad as an army guy and Jake Busey as a sleazy motorcycle guy. Jake Busey would go on to play Sex Machine in the TV version of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, right. I forgot that. This movie kind of reminds me of that, too. The trip to Mexico, everything bad happens.
And a very young Carla Gugino is here.
I think she's really good in this movie, but I like her a lot. I can't think of anything that I haven't liked her in. She's a great actress. And I like that they gave her a lot of agency, where she wasn't just a victim. She fought back. Twice.
It was just disturbing knowing she's just a little younger than me today. So seeing her that young made me feel really, really old.
Well, if it's any consolation, she is also really, really old now, if that's what you call old.
I know she's my age now, so seeing her that young meant I was that young back then.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that time has passed and
oh, no.
I've aged.
Yeah, that's 31 years ago. There are people who are alive today who weren't even born then.
There was another familiar face. You probably didn't recognize him, Richard Edson as Volker.
His face was very familiar.
He had a noticeable part in Good Morning Vietnam and a small part in Howard the Duck, but he's probably most remembered for a movie where I don't think he had any lines, but he was one of the valets who stole Cameron's Porsche in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, that's it. That's where I know him from. Like I said, his face was familiar. That's awesome. I didn't recognize Elan Oberon at all. She was Jean.
I don't know who that is. She doesn't even have a picture on IMDb.
No. And apparently she sung a song in this movie. She's on the soundtrack as performing one of the songs.
A lot of times when a cast member is credited with a song, it's something they sing like maybe 2 lines of or something.
Like I said, I was completely untouched by the music in this movie until the very end. So I'm just telling you what I read. I just have one bit of trivia from this movie. There was an earthquake just before filming was to begin. The January 17th, 1994 Northridge earthquake interrupted their shooting plans. And Milius said that he, of all the directors for this project, chose the hardest to reach locations. And then that was compounded by them having an earthquake to deal with too. Oh, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but Milius's first directorial effort was Dillinger for AIP. So it kind of came full circle for him.
Yeah, as I understand how these assignments came out for directors to take on these AIP titles, it was kind of a free-for-all, like, who wants to do this? And they took volunteers. Who wants to do this? We'll give you a $1.3 million budget, a 12-day schedule to shoot, and a crew. So John Milius must have been one of those first 10 to raise his hand.
He was nominated for an Academy Award for the Apocalypse Now screenplay, and he directed Red Dawn and Conan the Barbarian. So he's had an interesting career.
Yeah, he was actually slumming doing this film.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I think he elevated it a lot. I think that you can tell that the movie isn't being done by some hack. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, we still have quite a few of these to go, and I haven't seen very many at all of these Rebel Highway films, so I'm looking forward to the rest. So I'm kind of looking forward to see how this ranks among the others, but this is probably one of the higher tier ones, I'd say, so far.
So for Motorcycle Gang, Variety wrote that scripters Kent Anderson and Laurie McQuillan leave no emotional stone unturned while incorporating action in proper doses. The combination keeps the pick moving as quickly as Cal's car on Route 66. The character development that takes place through dialogue as the trio moves along the interstate is top-notch stuff, with closeted skeletons and unfulfilled dreams revealed in a manner that should strike home with viewers. But then I read in an interview that John Milius rewrote the script, so I don't know if we can totally credit Kent and Laurie. He said he always rewrites scripts for his movies.
So we've heard a contemporary review from Variety on Motorcycle Gang. What are your thoughts today?
Well, I think I've already said that I really liked this movie. It wasn't what I was expecting because I still felt like there'd be a little more of the AIP movie in it. And it's just a scary movie. It reminds me of many horror films that I've seen where a bunch of kids or a family are driving along and then they encounter the wrong people. And then the rest of the movie is just them being terrorized. And that's what's happening here. So it feels more like a horror movie, or at least a horror suspense kind of movie, than a rebel without a cause motorcycle rider kind of movie. In the original Motorcycle Gang, the movie was about the people who rode the motorcycles. And here, it's not about them. Now, we're taking focus away from them. They're the antagonists for sure, but we don't know anything about them. There's nothing nuanced about them. They're just the bad guys. The movie's about the family, the dynamics between them, all the secrets that they have and how they're discovered and what's going to happen to them afterwards. And that's where the focus is. And I kind of like that better, honestly. They're people that you can see yourself being, you can imagine yourself in their shoes, you want them to succeed, you're on their side. I think that it was a really good choice to make the gang the enemy and not really worry about them so much and keep all the focus inside the car and everything that's going on with them. And giving Gerald McRaney his hero moment and Carla Gugino and even Elan Oberon too. They get to strike back at this gang, they get to succeed, and they repair their family unit. So I think that was a really wise choice and made for more gripping viewing, and I would give it an A. What do you think?
I think you're right that there's really no other choice here but to make the gang the villains in the story. I can't see an episode of Rebel Highway called Motorcycle Gang focusing on the motorcycle gang. It just doesn't seem to fit, at least not in a more modern society. It didn't even really fit in the 50s, technically, but
no.
There we were.
Yeah, those kids were bad, but they weren't bad.
I said this movie felt like a made-for-TV movie, and it is, and I don't mean that to say that it's a bad thing. It's just that's what it felt like. But there have been a lot of TV movies with horror elements that are really well remembered today. And this is just kind of an intense drama thriller with some scary things happening. And it's because something happening to your family is probably a great fear for many people. If something happens to your family, that's the one thing you don't want more than anything else.
They're the most precious thing in the world to you. Well, should be. Your loved ones, your children, your spouse.
And while I didn't see the Fabian pin stabbing coming, I did see the lighter being featured a mile away.
I saw the Fabian pin coming. I'm surprised she didn't stab him in the previous scene.
But I gave the original Motorcycle Gang an A, and I can't give this a lower rating than that, so I'm going to give this one an A as well.
This was a good Rebel Highway. I'm afraid they're not all going to be good, but we'll find out. And now that the episode's almost over, now would be a good time to check out our website. It's aippod.com. There we have information on the movies that we've covered, visual elements like trailers, posters, lobby cards, a way to contact us if you want to find out more about the podcast or let us know how you feel. And while you're there, check out our store. You might find something you like. That's aippod.com.
So that's what we've got on episode 3 of Rebel Highway for Motorcycle Gang. This is the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.